Oh boy, another episode of the immaculately lit Banger TV podcast. What's up?
Not much, man. How are you doing, Blaine?
I'm doing well. My tummy's a little rumbly because I've been drinking micheladas nonstop.
You're obsessed.
I went to a Mexican restaurant. They had micheladas. I remembered how much I like that drink, and I've had 8 in the past 2 days.
Have I been saying it wrong my whole life? Is it a michelada, not a michelada?
I don't know. I like saying michelada. It's more fun to say, and it's definitely a drink that, like, I don't know. It's for those that don't know, it's basically a Bloody Mary or a Caesar, but made with, like, instead of putting a shot of vodka or tequila in there, it's just half a beer.
It's a great way to upset your stomach too, apparently.
Yeah. So don't drink 8. I've drank it. Basically, what it comes down to is in the past 2 days, I've drank a bottle of Cholula.
That's kind of gross.
Yeah.
It's like deliciously gross.
It's been diluted, but I bought a bottle 2 days ago. It is done.
Oh, you've been making the micheladas yourself. You're not buying like one of these like prepackaged.
No.
You're controlling those hot sauce ratios.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
the key.
putting a lot in there.
Okay, so you should clarify the stomach ache is not from the drink, but from the hot sauce.
I still don't think you should drink 8 in 2 days. It's normally meant as like a hangover cure. I think you're supposed to have one with breakfast, not one every hour on the hour.
A bottle of water and a coffee works really well too, you know.
Yeah, I like something, you know, that purges the system, but my system has been in purge for about 24 hours now nonstop.
Moving right along. Let's just get out of that world.
So
real quick.
speaking of
purging.
I was gonna say speaking of spicy south of the border. You were just in Colombia.
I was in Colombia, and I'm just gonna cut in right there and let you know that food is not that spicy. I was shocked to find out. I'd always ask for hot sauce, and they'd have no idea what I meant. I'd sometimes get barbecue sauce or like a salsa verde type thing. But finally, I met a Peruvian who spoke really great English and explained to me that in Colombia specifically, the territory we were in, like spicy food, like additional hot sauce isn't really a thing. The spice is generally cooked into the food, and that's the spice level, and no one douses their food uncontrollably with hot sauce like I do with my cereal every morning.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I know some Peruvians because I've been to Peru. How was Colombia? For your first time there? Right?
Yeah, it was my first time there. It was actually my first time in South America. It was incredible. The people were amazing. The food is unreal. I think I'm like still have the meat sweats.
Yeah.
And it was like gorgeous. I didn't realize how beautiful it was and how like lush and green and mountains, and really enjoyable trip overall. Played some shows. Those are really cool too. The fans are absolutely obsessed. I met tons of Banger fans. I met people who knew my old bands, my current bands. It's really good time overall. A lot of the Banger fans know what you're into. You're very vocal about your opinions on weird music.
Yeah.
What's the even weirder influences that perhaps the Banger fans don't know about? What's the weirdest stuff in your library that you're listening to?
I mean, there's I don't talk about when things get a little too extreme, like the war metals. The war metals. There's a new war metal release that I'm not going to talk about because I talk about it in my Metal Monthly, but that's something that's like really rare, and I don't talk about it too much because it's like one of those genres that's like barely a genre.
What the hell is war metal?
War metal, sometimes called bestial black metal, is just like black metal, like made almost to be like, what? Oh, you like black metal? Let's see if I can make you not like black metal. And so a lot of people fall off, and then,
Blaine picks right back up.
Yeah, and then it's like, yes, this is abrasive. But then I do have some more divergent tastes. I'm a big. There's a weird collection I have of. I like when hip hop samples something and takes it just completely out of context, just entirely transforms a song by going like, wow, that is not how they intended that to be used. A couple is, there's on a Diplomats mixtape, there's we built this city on rock, and it just cuts to the first couple times it repeats it just cuts the roll off. And
that's
then
awesome.
We built this city on rock. Pretty funny. There's this group called D Block that this guy Clint Sparks sampled the Cheers theme song to say take everything you've got, and then the song is just about robbing people to the Cheers theme. Joel Santana has a song where there's this old movie called The Newsies, which was,
of course,
right?
classic.
They take the
pair of shoes with matching laces.
They take the song from that, I'm the king of New York. And every time they're saying it, Joel Santana's like, oh, no, man, I can't say that. That's a big claim. That's a big, I can't say I'm king of New York. But then it's just like rapping over the Newsies theme song. Yeah.
Those are some pretty diverse tastes there.
Yeah,
Went down a whole road I didn't expect.
Yeah. What about you? What's the? We all know the kind of, you're a real throwback guy, and then you're also a big Kiss fan. Anything classic, but yeah. What's the unexpected curveball for you?
French house, like old school, like banging French house.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Weird.
like really greasy stuff. Also, like, obviously I'm a guitar player, so a lot of people think it has to be like heavy and abrasive for me. I love classical guitar. I will sit and listen to like Al Di Meola for hours and hours and hours. Instrumental music. I'm just, man, if you come over sometime and look through my record collection, it's a lot more lush than your record collection. You've got some choice cuts, but I've got way too many. You'll find some weird shit when you go through mine.
You do have a lot more records than I have.
Yes, come over sometime and we'll have a couple drinks and vegan ice cream bars and check out some of my weird stuff.
I like an instrumental record a lot.
Me too, man.
That's
dude, music scores on like film scores on tour is a classic thing to listen to while we're driving.
Only time I've ever seen this done. I've never seen another record. I have the Superman 2 soundtrack because the Superman theme from the movies is fantastic.
Totally.
Just an amazing song. But I don't know how they did it because I've never seen anyone else do this. The record is just a normal black record, but in it is a hologram of the Superman S.
Oh, on the physical record?
On the physical record.
Yeah, that stuff's
not
really
like
cool.
a picture disc, not an engraving. It's like a hologram.
Yeah.
Like a hockey card.
Yeah, does that side play music
Yeah.
as well? Oh, that's really neat.
Right?
Yeah, a lot of times you get like the art discs where it'll be like the music on one side and then you flip it and it'll have like an etch side, and those don't play music. So that's really cool.
Hello?
Hey, Brody.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, not much. Blaine from Banger here with DK.
What's going on, bud?
What's going on, guys?
Not much. Just doing this whole podcast thing. What are you up to right now?
Oh, just kind of sitting around with the cats, having an afternoon with not too much going on. Just got the news that King Crimson decided to finally put all their music on Spotify, and last week when I saw the news about iTunes, I freaked out and bought their whole back catalog thinking it was going to disappear, and now turns out there was no reason for me to do that, so I'm just...
Hey, Brody, it's been really good talking to you. I got to go listen to the King Crimson discography on Spotify.
Yeah, so I'm just sitting here fuming that I spent dollars on all their shit, and now it's on Spotify. So yeah, right.
I can honestly say for the 2000s on SoulSeek, I don't know if you ever used it. It was a music sharing program. If anyone ever downloaded a King Crimson album off me, no, they all downloaded every single album. No one ever is like, oh, I'm looking for one King Crimson album. If you're looking for a King Crimson album, you want all the King Crimson albums.
Yeah, you can't just I don't know, they're not really one of those bands that if someone's like, oh, well, what record should I get? And that band, you have to get the whole discography and listen to it, because much like Death, they had so many lineups that each record just had a completely different sort of sound, so it's very much one of those bands where you can't just have one record. You have to just be an insane person like me and get all of them at once for no reason, because Spotify is putting them up. So yeah, that's my day.
I don't think anyone who's ever listened to your band would be shocked to find out that you're a huge Robert Fripp fan. It's probably pretty obvious when you hear your influences.
Yeah, I mean, me and Biggs, our bass player, we both grew up with dads that were super enlightened to, you know, like the golden age of progressive music. So we kind of, both of us just grew up thinking that King Crimson and Pink Floyd and Genesis and, you know, the Moody Blues were cool. And then when we got to 7th grade and realized that they weren't cool, we were, you know, losers. So we're still losers, I guess.
Yeah, I definitely remember the reason I found out about King Crimson was from my friend. We were both in the gifted program in a school. Real gifted kid music.
Oh, yeah, absolutely gifted.
I remember a buddy of mine saw the one time, and he said Fripp kept lighting cigarettes and then using circular breathing to just have a cloud of smoke completely around his head, so he was just smoking at all times.
He's like one of like if I had a list of dudes that I could like just sit down with for like an hour and just bother with questions, like he's absolutely at the top of that list. Like him and Roger Waters are like the two dudes that I just like want to punish like super hard and just like really annoying questions too.
Yeah, we all have that person where we're like, there's no way I'm gonna have a conversation with this person and they're gonna leave being like, I like that guy.
I don't think you could have picked two angrier British musicians for the top of your punishing list either.
Oh, I know. It's like, I don't know what that says about me, but like those are the two dudes definitely the two dudes that I would want to, you know, just like lay it all out with and just bother the shit out of for sure.
I mean, they are basically just human encyclopedias of music knowledge. They're like finding one of them would be like finding like an old mystical textbook with secrets that no one else in the world knew, but this one old wizard.
Yeah, no, seriously, like, and it's weird. Like, I was listening to there's this podcast called the URM podcast. It's ran by recording engineer Joey Sturgis and A.L. Levy, and they have like producers and musicians and like general like music business people on that podcast. And one of the episodes they had the producer Machine, the guy that did Sacrament from Lamb of God, and I didn't know it until I listened to this podcast, but he actually recorded, engineered, produced Power to Believe, the newest King Crimson album from like, you know, 2000 whatever, but like, yeah, like same dude that the Lamb of God did King Crimson.
That's really cool.
That's wild.
Kind of cool because like that King Crimson record is like super heavy, and like it totally makes sense that guy would have done it. It's kind of neat.
Yeah, that's getting back to that thing where we were talking about where it's like, what King Crimson record should I start with? And it's like, well, what kind of mood are you in today?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, I mean, our bass player, he's like definitely like more of a historian with them than I am, because he's just like completely obsessed like as a bass player. And you know, like he was telling me that on their album Lizard, the singer of the band at the time actually quit the band after they made that record without playing any live shows with them, because the lyrics were so silly, like just so stupid and silly, that he quit the band because of it. And I thought that was like the coolest thing I'd ever heard. Like Robert Fripp was just like, yep, we're doing this shit, and it's completely silly and ridiculous, and I don't care, quit the band. And then he did.
Yeah, I definitely remember like at some point playing Elephant Talk for someone and then being like, this isn't cool, and I'm like, wait, it isn't?
No, it's like, yeah, there's like I've had plenty of those moments. Like I've been in like family scenarios where like I'll put on like Bitches Brew or something from Miles Davis, which is like not a family record. It's just like basically like him being on cocaine and LSD and freaking out on the trumpet for the entire duration of that album, but it's amazing. And, you know, putting that on around family members that don't quite understand that kind of music is always really hilarious kind of to watch. Same thing with, you know, putting on an obscure King Crimson record around older family members. They always tend to run to the hills.
Yeah, it's funny because I think like in your head at some point, it's one of those things where you're like, no, they might like this. This is me trying to bridge the gap. This is me trying to put on something that'll please everybody. And it's like, no, you've just alienated everybody immediately.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's the same thing as like trying to get my dad to like understand like Portal or some shit. You know what I mean? Like we as like fans of you know, like extreme music or whatever, I feel like we have this like kind of, you know, we've gotten over that hump of like understanding like, you know, the harshness of like certain types of music, and it's hard to remember that, you know, a lot of people really haven't ever gotten over that. And when you put on some crazy ass shit like King Crimson or Portal or Gorguts or, you know, those weird era Miles Davis records, like a lot of people aren't going to understand it. So it's always funny to watch and see what happens for sure.
Gorguts and Miles Davis in the same sentence, to me, kind of almost epitomizes everything I think about your band and your influences being all over the place. It's really interesting to hear that you do listen to all this weird type of shit that we love, man.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I guess it's like the only way for me to be, I guess. Like I've kind of just like, you know, when I was in high school, I very much like was super close-minded to, you know, everything. you know, if it didn't have the like, I mean, like Lamb of God was my favorite band in high school. You know, if it didn't sound like anything from the new wave of American heavy metal, you know, like it was like, forget it. Like I didn't want to hear it at all. It was either emo or crap or whatever, you know. So like I think being that way in high school kind of just like, I don't know, I guess it like taught me about, you know, how limiting being super closed-minded can be, and you know, I've kind of just like since then just, I feel like every year I grow older, I just kind of branch out and become more open-minded to like more and more kinds of music and things that I might not have listened to before.
It's interesting that you've taken like kind of all these like alienating influences, because with the last Rivers of Nile record, it was almost having all these kind of alienating influences. You managed to create a record that had like a lot of kind of crossover success, where people that might not have normally listened to the kind of music that you make ended up really digging the record. I mean, I can't think there, even here at Banger, there was Sam had your record as record of the year. Did you, obviously, you know, you're making music and you're thinking like this is the best record we've released, but did you guys kind of foresee some of the kind of more wide appeal that it would have? Because it didn't really alienate like hardcore fans, it just kind of brought in a bunch of new ones.
Man, like I don't really think we knew what to expect like with this record. Like you know, we just kind of we just made the record like for ourselves. I mean, I know every band says that, like, oh man, we make records for ourselves, but like I don't know, like we just kind of like, I guess we didn't really think anybody was going to be paying attention, so we were just like, screw it, like let's just put, you know, let's put a, you know, a 9 Inch Nails type song here, and then the big, you know, epic sax solo here, and a trumpet part here, and you know, clean singing here. Like we didn't really think that anybody was gonna like pay attention. Basically, like we had released 2 records prior to that like, you know, they saw some, you know, some positive response, and like we had toured on them and done some good tours, and done some definitely not so good tours. And like, I think after, you know, we had done those 2 records, like we just sort of figured that like we were gonna, I don't know, just sort of float around the same circle that we had been in on the first 2 records, as far as like the type of tours we would be doing and the kind of people that we would appeal to. And we kind of just, you know, wrote Owls thinking that it wouldn't really make, you know, the waves that it did. And then I guess when we put it out, it was, you know, a pretty obvious shift in a positive direction for, you know, for us as a band. Like all of a sudden, all these, you know, people that we didn't ever think, you know, would care about our music started caring about it a lot. And it was definitely a very happy accident, I would say. We, you know, like I said, bands say all the time that they make, you know, records, you know, they make music that they want to hear as band members. But, you know, we definitely, I think that's definitely true for Where Owls Know My Name. And I don't know. I don't really think we thought anybody would care, I guess.
Wow, it's funny to hear that just with the reception the record got. It's like no one's gonna care about this.
10
Oh,
out of
whoops.
10. 10 out of 10. Yeah.
Whoops.
Dude, the reviews were like insanely overwhelmingly positive. It was like so cool to see major publications giving such an extreme and different sounding record such positive reviews, and I'm so stoked that you guys are seeing the success you're seeing now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's, we definitely, like I said before, we definitely didn't expect any of it, and it seemed like, it seemed like the reviews, most of the reviews were just like overwhelmingly positive, which, like you said, for such a different sounding record, because traditionally we had been pretty much just like a death metal band straight up, not formulaic necessarily, but like, lots and lots of blast beats and tons of double bass and, super fast tempos, and like, the fact that like the record that we kind of stopped doing a lot of that. There's obviously a lot of that stuff on the record, but the record where we kind of turned it back, I guess, like, is the record where all these, people and publications and whatever, like, really started to pay attention. So I guess it's encouraging to us for the future, for sure, for, whatever is to come next. But yeah, it was definitely a big surprise and very cool to see. And I think even, I think we didn't get an official review from Anthony Fantano, but we did get a why didn't you review this thing from Anthony, and I'm pretty sure if we would have gotten a review from him, it wouldn't have been a great one, but hey, we made it to his channel, so I guess that's something, right?
Yeah. I saw you guys one of the last time you came through town, but unfortunately the tour with the live saxophone player didn't make it to Toronto. How was that tour, man? Was that like, did it really create like a different dynamic at those shows? How did they go?
Yeah, it did. I think that tour, like, we knew going into that tour that it was gonna be an important moment for us, just because, like, we had received, such positive, reviews on the record, and like all of this like attention that Where Owls Know My Name had gotten, which is it's all amazing and great, but getting all of that stuff and then being able to take it out on the road and like play it from front to back live and represent the material, in the way that it deserves to be represented, is a completely different ball game. So I knew that we knew that going into that tour that it was going to be a defining moment for us as musicians, first and foremost, just because, like, it's a lot. It is a lot of material, and as performers, like, it's a piece of music that I think a lot of people have really attached themselves to, and we wanted to make sure that we were doing the best possible job that we could to bring that to them live. And I think that I think it went better than we really thought it could have. Having Patrick Corona on saxophone. He plays for a band called Cyborg Octopus. They're from San Francisco.
Nice.
He filled in for Zach, because Zach, the guy that played on the record, he's actually a school teacher, so he obviously can't go out and be dirtbags with us. So we got Pat to play for us, and I think having him there was like, it definitely added that extra dynamic that we needed. And then, on top of that, we had like, we had John, our other guitar player, playing keyboards for a select few tunes. And I don't know, I think it really gave people something to come out and see, because like, you can go see a band play to, backing tracks, pretty much any week. There's bound to be a band rolling through your town that's gonna go up there and play to a bunch of backing tracks, but like actually, trying to represent the music fairly with like, live keyboards and saxophones, and doing as much as we can to like truly play the record live. I think that was like, word caught on, that the shows were doing well and selling out. And I think as the tour got on, as the tour carried on, more and more people, got word of it and were coming out to the shows. So, I mean, it was definitely the best time that I've ever had on a tour. And I definitely think that it was a defining moment in, our careers so far, for sure.
I still think I'm so bummed I couldn't see it. I still think about my dad took me to Bob Seger years ago.
Oh yeah.
Because he really loved Bob Seger, and that was one of the earlier things I started listening to by my dad's influence. And just I can still clearly remember at the start of Turn the Page, just they blacked out the venue, and there was just a single spotlight on the sax player whose name I'm spacing on right now, and it's just like still a moment that stands out to me, and it's like just. It was just a really kind of powerful moment in a live show.
Yeah, it's moments like that are definitely like I try to remember stuff like that. Like, when I was like younger and going to concerts, like just like seeing like the sheer spectacle of like stuff like that you're not used to seeing, like a saxophone in metal or whatever, like just stuff like that just sticks in your head. Like, I always try to remember stuff like that like, maybe for us, like bringing a sax player out on tour with us for 5 weeks isn't necessarily the most comfortable arrangement because there's 7 people in our van then, but it's like,
yeah.
Think about, the people that are coming out to the shows and like, that they might, come and see that show and like, that might stick with them for, for their entire life. So it's like, it's a weird thing to think that like something that we wrote in our bedrooms, could scale up to that kind of thing. But like, it's something that I have to remind myself of, that, people aren't, been out to see this material, and that it might be like a special moment for them because they're, that attached to the music. So just stuff that I have to constantly remind myself of,
Yeah, I mean, definitely. That was it's a weird record because I was saying to DK before we got on the phone with you, it's you can sometimes a record comes out and it's really good and you listen to it, but I think the really rare records are the records that you still a year later are enjoying as much as when you first heard it, and that's definitely the case with this record.
Yeah, it's been cool. I mean, the record came out like over a year ago, and like it's still, I don't know, like when we go out and play, like it still feels like pretty fresh. Like, I mean, people are still like, raging out, and like it still feels like a pretty fresh record. I mean, we just got back from Australia and New Zealand, and like those shows were just unbelievable. So like we're just staying busy out here, touring and stuff, and like I don't know, it doesn't really feel like, because like once you're like over a year into an album cycle, it starts to feel like the material is like live, at least, isn't really like super attached to who you are as a person or a musician anymore. But like I feel like this stuff is like, it still feels pretty fresh with everybody, which is it's cool. It's a cool thing.
That's the ultimate sign that you've created a cool piece of art, man. And I gotta say, I watched the pro shot video from the Vitus show, which banger. We don't plan to take road trips to shows together often, but I'll still remember I was sitting at my desk here and Sam Dunn sat down next to me with his phone with your tour poster, and he's like, they're playing 2 nights at St. Vitus. We got to get everyone together and go. We couldn't make it, but I watched that video, man. The material translates live so well, especially with the large band, with the additional key stuff and the horn live. It's incredible, man. I'm really bummed out I didn't get to see that tour, but good on you guys, man. You're pulling it off live, and that's fucking incredible. It's a crazy record.
Thanks. Yeah, those Vitus shows were definitely like, as part of that tour, the fact that we like sold St. Vitus out 2 nights in a row, and both nights were like, I mean, what you saw in the video pretty much, like that was like a cool moment for us, I think, because we had like really like cut our teeth, I guess, in New York, because like around Philadelphia, where we're sort of from, like Philadelphia didn't really have a huge metal scene back in like 2010, 2011 when we first started touring. So like we would oftentimes make the trip up to New York to play shows, whether it was at St. Vitus or the Lit Lounge or, there's several venues we play in New York. So we kind of always felt like New York City was like where we really started, moving as a band. And the fact that we were able to sell St. Vitus out 2 nights in a row and have that sick recording that we captured that night in the video, and everyone was just in such a good mood. That was I think a very important part of that tour was those 2 shows, because that's how the tour ended. It was 2 nights at Vitus, and it was really sick. Definitely one of my favorite moments of that tour.
Yeah, Vitus is that's such a cool experience to have there too. Just a great place run by great people. I remember one time me and my buddies were going down to New York, and we had gone to Vitus to hang out. We were hanging out with David Castillo there for a bit, and then we were going to crash at our buddy's place. We get to our buddy's place, and he had passed out, and we couldn't get him awake to get in the house. And then we texted Dave, and he was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll roll out some sleeping bags. Come over to my apartment." And we just went over to his apartment, and he put us up for the night.
Man, that's awesome.
That's fucking rad.
Yeah.
You never told me that. That's awesome.
Oh, no? Oh, yeah. It was a really funny night.
Dude, I follow your writing stuff on Gear Gods. Are you as big of a gear nerd as I think you are?
Yeah, I definitely am.
So I see you do all the programming and all the electronic stuff for the band as well, right?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I record the guitar and the bass as well, so I'm pretty involved in the production side of things with the band as well.
Which I kind of knew that, and I found it interesting when I was watching the live videos that you're not the dude playing the keyboards, even though it's clearly your compositions. Why'd you make that choice?
Well, I guess John, our other guitarist, he's more invested in the keyboard piano thing than I am. I kind of just use it as I use it as a thing specifically for Rivers of Nile. I don't practice piano or anything on my own. If I'm writing a song and I think something needs a part that, then I'll apply that to the song. But John's more of a recreational keyboard player. He learns classical pieces, and he writes a lot of his own instrumental piano music. The kind of stuff that would play in a movie when somebody just got broken up with, or there's a funeral or something. That's the kind of music that he writes. So yeah, he's and he actually he had quite a bit of keyboard equipment. I do most of my keyboard stuff for the band with MIDI and a really cheap kind of controller setup. But he actually had a pretty good keyboard and stuff. So we just figured, since I'm handling the leads and everything like that, and originally we actually thought we were going to bring an acoustic guitar stand out with us, and I was going to play acoustic live. So we had him do keyboards for that reason. He's actually a very good keyboard player, way better than me. I'm just more of a situational keyboard player as it applies to Rivers of Nile, whereas he's actually a dude that practices it and tries to get better at it.
Yeah, you're the studio guy.
I'm the studio guy. I do the magic tricks. Yeah.
Yeah, that's rad. And I gotta say, I saw a quote from an interview that you did that I think, especially after talking to you, perfectly kind of sums up everything I hear in the way you make your music. Without change, there is no progress. Without progress, the very fire that powers art and expression will die. I would love for you to elaborate on that, because to me that fucking sums up Rivers of Nile perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess really what that comes down to is just not wanting to just repeat ourselves, I guess. I don't know, there's so many bands out there that they find their thing and they do their thing really, really well, better than most bands, that's their thing. And then they just kind of stick with that. And there's absolutely, nothing wrong with that. But I don't know, if I'm trying to think of a good example here. I don't know if Tony Iommi hadn't, figured out how to make his amps sound the way they did. If he was just playing the same setup as what George Harrison was using, the same kind of riffs that George Harrison was playing, then you wouldn't have had Black Sabbath, and then you wouldn't have had the entire genre of heavy metal. So, like, I don't know. I feel like just trying new stuff and, like, I don't know. I feel like just change is what really is. It pushes genres of music and just art as a whole forward. I don't know. Like, I watched this video recently on. It was Willem Dafoe. He played Da Vinci, I think it was, and I don't know. It was kind of interesting to me because, like, when Da Vinci was, or was it Da Vinci, or was it who painted Starry Night? Do you guys know?
Van Gogh.
Van Gogh, yeah.
Van Gogh. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I'm an idiot. Van Gogh.
You can only be amazing at so many things.
And so, like, yeah, it was about Van Gogh, and Willem Dafoe was playing Van Gogh, and, like, it was just crazy to me that, like, he was paying this shit back then, and people were just like thought it sucked. Just like, this isn't like this other thing that already exists. This is stupid. We hate this. Like, this isn't no one's gonna buy this. And, like, I don't know, man. Like, now look. I mean, obviously now look at him. Like, he, like, revolutionized like painting. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And I think that, like, taking risks like that, like maybe doing stuff that, like, people might approach with caution at first, be nervous about, you know, like, sometimes that's a good thing. Like, I don't know, I'm not saying, I mean, we definitely didn't reinvent the wheel or anything like that, but, like, I think it's a happy accident that, like, we did this record and people just happens to like it. You know what I mean? Like, I think people could have just as easily heard this record and been like, well, this isn't, you know, what we're used to hearing out of this band, so screw this, you know? So I don't know. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that, like, we've never been a band, and I've never been the kind of person who has any interest in, like, putting the same thing out twice, because, like, each record is a moment. You know, it's kind of like a moment captured in time of, like, where all of us were as individuals in our personal lives as well as musicians. And that's what the sound of that record is. And, like, you know, we're no longer those people. Like, we're no longer the people that recorded our first record. We're no longer the people that, you know, recorded Where Owls Know My Name. We're completely different people than we were back then, completely different musicians. So I think that for us, like I said, you know, there are bands out there that have their thing and they do that thing on every record and they, you know, and it works for them. But for us, like, it just doesn't. We never had any interest in doing that. We always kind of wanted to, like, take risks and, you know, like, risk people not liking something, which, you know, like, really is what we did on Owls. We didn't think anyone would care or be interested, and it's just a happy accident that they did care. So,
Well,
I don't know if I answered the question.
No, that's great.
You did, and, you know, when I talk to a lot of bands that I feel that they've really found their sound, or, you know, if I ever get the chance to talk to someone like Angus Young, I will always say the same thing, like, you fucking rock, don't ever change. But speaking to you and to Rivers and Isle, man, I hope that you guys keep on changing and keep on evolving, because you are a creative mind, and I can't wait to see what you guys do next.
Thanks. Yeah, I think that a lot of people feel that way. I think that they want to see us continue to change, or at least I'd like to hope that they would. So I guess we're gonna have to wait and see.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'm excited to see what. I don't know if there's a oboe or something. I'm excited to see what you guys do, and it's been a real pleasure chatting with you, man. It's been fantastic.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Hey,
Absolutely,
thanks for coming
dude.
on.
Take care, Brody.
Yep. Take care. Have a good day.
Cheers.
You too.
Bye.
So it was a great convo.
Great chat.
So hey, buddy.
Another great. I always love hanging out with you and doing this,
It's a good
man.
time.
This is fun.
It's a good time. Let's close it out. Woo! Boom!